Dewhurst. Who knows? There may be a cat coming in. It could probably still get in. Yeah, today's reading is, once again, working with the subjects of fear, which, as I said earlier, is the focus of the whole magazine this month. So that's why the readings are all focusing on it. But it's fear in a good sense. And here is what our good friend Reverend Robbins has got to say about it. Transforming our fear. Oh, yes. How about a thought for the day? May you always have a smile on your face and laughter in your heart. May you will always have a smile on your face and laughter in your heart. How about that? And then transforming our fear. First quote is from Dale Carnegie, who was the great guru in teaching people how to speak in public. Do the thing you fear to do and keep on doing it. That is the quickest and surest way yet discovered to conquer your fear. Or a fear, he said. Dale Carnegie. There can be nothing in the universe operating against our word except our own doubt, which is where a lot of stuff falls apart, right? We have these great ideas, we put it out there, and then we start thinking, well, can that really happen? Well, can that really happen? And that's fear kind of niddling in there. And that was from Living Without Fear, page 128. Ernest Holmes was a prolific writer and also a prolific speaker. This is Reverend Kelly. There are two common acronyms for fear. The first one I've never heard of, actually. Forget everything and run. I'd never heard of that. Face everything and rise. When you're afraid, you can choose to either turn and run or to lean in and walk through. Transforming our fears can happen in an instant or in stages. It begins with choosing to face everything and rise. Facing our fears is how we overcome them. First, be aware that you are afraid. This may sound simple, but some of us don't realize when we're afraid. Why? Because fear can be hidden under our other emotions. Sometimes we analyze the situation intellectually rather than emotionally, making fear seem illogical. Next, clarify exactly what you're afraid of. Take time to understand why. From there, sit with your fear and explore the spiritual truth behind it. Fear is misplaced faith. Yeah, I've heard that expression quite a lot, actually. Consider looking at it as your teacher. Why? Because it's here to show you areas that are ripe for growth and also ways to deepen your oneness with God. Then she asks, what is your understanding of God, of the creative process, of universal law? Reflects on how your fear may or may not align with these spiritual truths. Because our physical bodies respond to fear immediately and strongly, we often react rather than responding when something scares us. As a result, we may not take time to listen to the message, or indeed to reflect on our fears and on alternate ways of responding. Ultimately, using fear as a catalyst for transformation can lead to profound change and deepen our relationship with the divine. Okay, a couple of things here. In its original form, fear it's good. Because if you're faced with a wild animal, then it's natural to be afraid. You know, fear is actually a good thing when it saves us from things. But what she's talking about here is fear that we keep churning over in our minds, as opposed to actually a physical confrontation with something. But our brains find it hard to separate the difference between a real physical danger and something that we fear might happen in the future, because human beings are incredibly good at imagining what might happen. And as you know, we can turn that to our advantage, or, as in this case, our disadvantage. So there's two real kinds. One is a good kind of fear that keeps us safe when there's danger. But the other one is when we start mulling it over and over and over in our minds and worrying about what might happen. Somebody famous once said that he'd worried an awful lot in his life, and none of it had ever come to pass. It was a famous writer, I forgot who it was now. Reverend Jesse would know it instantly, but my memory doesn't come back as quickly as that. Well, at least it doesn't these days. So this is a good reading because it's teaching us, I think, the difference between good fear, which is when we're faced with something that we ought to be afraid of, and the stuff that we create and bring up in our own minds, wondering and fearing that something might happen. And just remember that when you are fearing about something happening, what you're doing is you are actually using affirmative prayer, because you're putting your thoughts and emotions together about something. And when you put your thoughts and emotions together about something and you keep doing it, that is what you're impressing onto the universal subjective mind. And because the universal subjective mind doesn't distinguish, it accepts it, and it starts to actually produce the thing that it is you fear. So the opposite of that is to build up faith and to realize that we do have support, and that most of the time the things we fear never come about anyway. So do your spiritual work. That's the story behind this. Okay. I choose to transform my fear, deepening my consciousness of wholeness and oneness with spirit. Or you could simply say, I choose to transform my fear. I deepen my consciousness of wholeness and oneness with spirit. You could have one affirmation, you could have two affirmations. And remember, affirmations repeated with feeling are what produce the results. So when you start repeating affirmations with feeling, then guess what? You start to get real results. So look forward. Oh, sometime today, you'll get a midweek meditation from Danielle Johnson. And then tomorrow morning, 9:15, you get a reading from Reverend Lisa Ryan with, I'm sure, quite a bit of commentary. And then you'll get me tomorrow somewhere around about 5. So until next time, I am knowing for each and every one the ability to lay fears at one side and to have faith in the divine, and that all things work to our good. And in gratitude I say, and so it is, and I release it so that it can do its work in the universal mind. Namaste.